I bid you all good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you may be watching this transmission. It is I, Mike Martins. Guys, thanks for joining me. I want to throw up a thing up here. Video I did in trends in the housing market a few weeks ago, where go to my playlists. Guys, check out the channel when you get some time. Go to trends in the housing market. Look at all the videos we got here. It's really good. It's just a wealth of knowledge here, just from all the articles and all the people we have come on the show. And I want to go, here it is. So if you go back to trends in the housing market from 2 weeks ago, we did an article. We read an article of housing and construction being built up at the highest levels it ever has been in Canada. In Canada's history, there is more construction happening than anywhere else. Than every time in its history, of construction. Canada has never had this much construction. Now, tons of new apartments are being built that almost no one can afford. More new units will be built in 2020 than in any year since the 80s, a majority of them in cities with deep poverty and inequality crisis. There's a rampant homelessness crisis in large cities across the country, stoked by a lack of affordable housing units, but fear not. Developers are constructing new apartments at a rapid clip this year. Okay. The catch: up to 80% of those rental units to be completed this year will be in luxury buildings the average person likely can't afford, according to the data obtained by the Wall Street Journal from the real estate analytics firm Roy LePage. So that's what's going on, guys. So there's so much construction happening, but it's more for wealthy foreign investors. Wealthy foreign investors, and I've said this a quadrillion times. I've been saying it for almost a decade now. Canada, Australia, New Zealand, the United Kingdom, they're all competing for wealthy investors. The Australian proper, the Canadian proper, the people that actually built this infrastructure are all fighting against each other and all basically hating on each other while they are basically getting bought out, completely getting bought out, massive opioid crisis and massive problems. So the catch up of 80% of those rentals. So here's the catch: 80% of those rental units to be completed this year will be luxury buildings. I know, I'm going to read it again, because when already most people can afford an average apartment or an average home with good wages. We're not talking about average wages or minimum wage. We're talking about people on good wages can even afford to get into their own housing market. We got a huge deal happening. The catch, so we already read that, and I can read that again. 80% of the rental units to be completed this year will be luxury buildings. A sizable portion of this year's expected 371,000 new rental units will also come online in cities with deep poverty and inequality crisis like Los Angeles, Dallas, and Washington, D.C. According to the data released Wednesday, in Dallas, nearly 21% of the city's population lives below the poverty line, compared to the national average near 12%. In Los Angeles, where the homelessness population swelled to 36,000 people. So, guys, this is in Los Angeles, guys. 36,000 homeless. I read the article a few weeks ago on trends in the housing market, where we were discussing LA and how for every homeless person, there's 4 or 5 empty vacant units owned by foreign investors. The poverty rate is 19%. In DC, it's nearly 17% of the population is impoverished. Collectively, those cities will get nearly 60,000 new units. But the problem is they're not building units for affordability, right? They're building it for basically, quick flips, right? It wasn't immediately clear that the percentage of those units would be reserved for low-income renters, if any. So there you go. I just answered my own question there, or what people were thinking right there in that line. But the new units will represent a 50% increase from the number of units completed last year nationwide, and more new units will be built in 2020 than in a year since the 1980s, according to the journal. Now, again, I read the article for you guys over here. I think it's under this trends in the housing market here. where I did that article. Yeah, it was this trends in the housing market. It was just called Trends in the Housing Market. I think it was in this one where construction is at enormous amounts of levels, but nobody could afford to buy it. What's the point, right? And that's what I kept saying. Low income housing coalition. The argument that the production of luxury rental homes will ultimately benefit these renters through filtering is misguided. Even that they can't afford to pay. Significant federal investment is needed to both increase the supply of affordable homes for low-income renters and preserve the existing supply. So here's the problem. So like they're building for profit. They're not, well, back in the days you built because back in the days when you had a recession or a housing decline or a housing crash, a lot of builders would stay away from the markets. A lot of builders would not build. They wouldn't consolidate land. They wouldn't bother because wages were going down and people were losing jobs. Now that we are fishing in the wealthy or getting the more elites to come in, we can't compete with that. With $200 billion in laundered money across Canada, we can't compete with this. The developers often argue that building new apartments is profitability, expensive, making luxury units the only real profitable option for them, according to the journal. And ideally, developers say building more units for wealthy tenants means they'll move out of their smaller apartments, leaving them available for lower income renters. It doesn't work like that. It does not work like that because people that live in the country can't afford to live here. The people that invest in the country don't live here. That's why you have all these empty homes. An analysis out of the Joint Center for Housing Studies of Harvard University found this isn't happening. Of course it's not happening. People don't leave those apartments and sell them and upgrade. I don't think so. This process has not produced any adequate supply of rental at the low end, the researchers wrote. These units can also be challenging to fill, although apartment occupancy overall is very high. For example, in Manhattan, where the skyline is filled with glossy luxury towers, one in four new luxury towers built after 2013 remain unsold, or they're remaining empty, right? According to the New York Times. Similarly, luxury units remain vacant in Seattle, Los Angeles, and Denver. So the smart part is build it as cheap as possible, profit from what you could sell off it, and then leave the rest empty, or just leave it, or just use it. You get a blowout sale. What a lot of builders have been doing, they've been flying into Shanghai, Hong Kong, and other cities, and they've been blowing out these units cheap. They've been going out showing photos of the units, and if you guys want to pick up some of these, we got like 5 in this building that's left vacant if you want to buy it and leave it vacant. In some instances, cities try to quell the outrage over the rise of luxury units by reaching deals with developers to ensure a percentage of the units rent to people paying below market rates. Detroit, for instance, recently ensured that 20% of luxury apartments buildings would be set aside for affordable luxury renters. Affordable luxury renters. Okay. The city then gave property, so people need permission or being allowed to afford to live in their own. I don't know, guys. It's, yeah. The $1.46 million tax abatement, according to Model D Media. Similarly, New York City has set aside some luxury units for affordable housing. However, activists point out that the homes are really reserved for the upwardly mobile or people making more than minimum wage. So, the housing units in the city were availed for those in Brooklyn's median income of $52,782. So I did a video back then. You need to make about $200K to afford to buy, but to rent. So, City of Vancouver. Okay, affordable housing 4K. Let's go back here to this article. Here you go. So now, this is what the city of Vancouver now defines $3,702 rent as affordable housing. So now they did this. They've said it. It's on record. It's from the Georgia Straight. It's a good paper that actually gets to the root of the problem. And City of Vancouver defines $3,702. Why? For the public sector workers not to leave. Because if the public sector workers that work for the city can't afford to live in their own cities and have these 3, 4, 5 hour commutes that I already covered here on the channel, we're going into danger problems. We're going into huge, dangerous problems. Anyways, guys, I want to know what you guys think in the comments below. More and more housing is being built, but why? Why is this housing being built when no one could afford to buy any of it? Again, wheeling in the wealthy investors to basically economically take over the country. Then you're going to start seeing the people that do own borrowing from their homes, using their homes as ATM machines, and then going forward from that, more and more delinquencies will be filing. I think Q1 of 2020, you're going to see a huge amount of delinquencies. It's going to be very interesting to see where things head in the next couple of quarters. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I would love to know what you guys are feeling about this. It affects all of us. This affects all of us. Because we can't take part. We can't be... They're making it so we can't be a productive host to society, a productive person in society. It's making it harder for us to have a roof over our heads. Let me know, comment below. Thanks for watching.